Yesterday, a gentleman at Presbytery stood up at the end of Presbytery in the new business, and he wanted to get up and talk about the fact that the church is dying. Yeah, we just take it out back and do it old Yeller style, right? The church is dead. The Reformed Church, the Protestant Church, mainline denominations are declining at such a rapid pace that we don't, the church is dying. I am so sick of hearing that the church is dying. Do we not have as many people in our mainline Protestant denominations? Yes. Yes, this is true. Are our budgets a little tighter? Yes, with less people comes less money. That's just kind of how it works. But it's not dying. This is the most ridiculous thing that we come to. We talked about this in Sunday school. The Catholic Church, pre-St. Francis, I don't know if they were all going, oh, we're dying, because nobody was in attendance. In that time, I think they could have said the church was dying because they had leadership who was so corrupt and so vile that they were stealing and killing each other. They had cardinals from separate families who would murder one another or murder each other's families so that they could be the next pope and make and send the people off to war and make all the gold and all that. But it's a little bit different now. I don't think the church is dying. The church is doing something different. Now, if you are a defeatist and you want to think that it's dying, I guess go ahead and have that perspective. It's your prerogative to do that. I don't really say people's opinions are wrong, but that's kind of wrong. Because we're not dying. We're on the precipice of doing something different. In fact, I don't even think we're on the precipice of it. I think we are doing it. We are in the midst of having to reform. We are Presbyterians, brothers and sisters, and one of our main things is that we are reformed and always being reformed, which means we have to be responsive people. It means we as Christians are responsive people. It means we respond to the opportunities that God places in front of us in this time, in this place, here, now, in our selective communities. We have to take the opportunities to see where and how God is calling us in a new landscape. In the year King Uzziah died, things went bad when Uzziah died. Uzziah wasn't a terrible person. He was a pretty good king. And so when he died, of course, a new king takes over, and the prophet says, here I am. It's a new time. It's a new place. I'm here. Send me. A lot of our big steeple churches have made unfortunate choices. They made unfortunate choices because the neighborhoods inside our inner cities and places like that they've changed. And the churches have been unwilling to change in some ways around them to respond to the neighborhood that they're in. So what happens is people move out of the inner city to the neighborhoods, and they find a church that's been planted in the neighborhood out there, and they say, you know what, I'm going to move my membership because I'm not going to travel all the way in. And so they don't respond to what's happening in their neighborhoods, in their places, here, in that place. And you know what happens to them? They become archaic buildings that become gyms. I'm serious. People buy churches to make gyms out of them. They make really great gyms. That's what happens. Because they missed the opportunity. They missed God in the temple. The hem of God's garment, the voice of God shaking, saying, in this place, I am here. You must respond to me right now in this place, in this community, in this time, right now. They missed the opportunity. It doesn't speak as much for our rural churches because, well, it's a little bit different here. Our communities are shaped different, are formed different, but we still have to respond in that same way to recognize that our community is changing. We have to respond to it. I was part of a church once that completely missed the opportunity. And to this day, it breaks my heart because it was such a powerful, great church. They had the opportunity to sell a big portion of their land because they had moved out of the community outside of the city after their church burned and said, you know what, let's not rebuild on that spot, let's move our church out into this big plot. And they bought this big plot of land, and they built a beautiful church, and most of the people said, you know, we get it, so they came out with them, and then in that neighborhood began to change. And they chose not to respond to it. They had the opportunity to sell that plot of land to put a place like Highland Ridge. And to respond, and the community was ripe for it. And they would have been partial owner of a Presbyterian home and things like that. And it would have brought in tons of membership and some financial risk. And then they could have done some of the big dreaming, because on the other side of it, they had a large Congolese refugee population, because it was right at the time of a lot of stuff going down in the Congo. But again, they chose not to respond to that either, and so they began to hemorrhage membership. Because what they were was a group of people that didn't fit and didn't respond and weren't really doing anything. And so they lost their opportunity. They missed God in the temple of that place doing and calling them. It was a cut and dry for the Presbyterian home thing, and it was a cut and dry for the refugees, and they just missed it. They just missed it and chose not to respond to it. But you can point to the successful mainline churches, and one of them is Fourth Presbyterian in Chicago that has done twofold thing. They've kept their membership and they've responded to their neighborhood, and they have grown exponentially, and they're doing really incredible things. There are success stories, but that's the thing, that we can be defeatist and say the church is dying, we're all hemorrhaging members. But we're not. The church is not dying. We've also been vision obscured, so to speak. We have decided to focus on, the young people. What they like is a song, and then a sermon, and a prayer, and some more songs, and that's what will keep them in church. They got to have drums, and smoke, and guitars, and that's going to get them here. Some. Can't blanket statement all of them. I rather despise that kind of worship style, and I'm technically a young person. But that's not just going to work. We blinded ourselves by worship wars. We blinded ourselves with things that are they as important to responding to the needs of our community? It's not about changing our style of worship from traditional to contemporary. That's all surface level. It's about deeper internal changes. It's about responding to the spiritual needs of ourselves and of our churches, about the poverty, the hunger, the changes in the community dynamics, the needs of the people around us. It's about the changes in responding to how we receive and input information, how we put it out. But here's the thing, it's not just about our churches. It's not just about us as a collective group of people, but it is about Dan. And Dan, and Barb, Katie. It's about us individually. Each of us has to recognize God in the temple, saying, hey, who am I going to send? Because each of us individually has to say, here I am. We can say, here we are. But at the same time, we individually have to say, here I am. How am me, myself, going to respond to the call? God encounters us in our contexts, in our places, in these places. Here at this church, here in this community. We get that from the first portion of this text. It says, in the year that King Uzziah died. That is a specific time and place in history and in the world. In our time, in our community, in this place, our eyes have to be opened individually and as a church to take part in it, to find the need, to see God in the temple of the world, and to preach, and to share, and to be part of the good work, and to say, send me. I should have took your paper. But as he was doing the children's sermon, it struck me, here is the most important portion of this statement that Isaiah makes is here. Here I am. Here in this place is where I am. I am not in some other place. I am not in some other time. Jesus is always talking about the kingdom of heaven is now. It is present. It is at hand. It is not far off. It is not behind us. And the prophet says, here I am. Here I am. In Williamsburg, Iowa, In the year 2019, it's still February, so I get that pass. At 33 years old, the pastor of First Presbyterian Church, here I am. We are apt to daydream and to fantasize about being in a different place at a different time. I personally am not a beach person, but I tell you what, I've been daydreaming about the beach for about 3 weeks now. And in those daydreams and in those moments, what have I missed? Here. Here, in this moment, in this time, in this very specific portion of our life. There is no past. There is no future. Those things don't exist. Literally, the only thing that actually exists in all of our lives is the present moment. This moment. And as this moment fades away, those 30 seconds where I just said that the only moment that exists is this present moment don't exist anymore. It exists now. It's this, right here. So we respond here and now. And we say, send me. We respond to however that call comes. Wherever we find God in the temple. The temple of our work, the temple of our church, the temple of our schools. I'm not saying those are temples, but we can recognize God in those places and respond. How are we going to respond to God at work, to God at school, to God at church, to God outside? How do we say in this moment, I am here, I am fully here, send me, use me, right now, in our neighborhoods, in our town, in our state, in our country, in our world. I know I keep saying here, but guess what? Here also includes Africa. Here also includes Indonesia. Here also includes Pakistan. Because we are part of a global portion. For God so loved Williamsburg, Iowa. For God so loved Iowa? For God so loved the world. We have to recognize that here includes all of it. Everyone. So we work here in Williamsburg. We work here in Iowa. We work in our country in response to the needs. And we also work globally. That takes a lot. Seriously. It's unfathomable. The need alone in Williamsburg, Iowa, they're on a 15 to 15 right now. 14. We send 14 home on the weekends, school lunch bag things, so that kids have food to eat. That is not even close to what is needed. It's not even in the ballpark, I don't think. If I was talking to Gene, I think we need to quadruple it. Oh, we need over 100. So we need time to make about 10. 10 times more backpack programs are needed for kids in our community. We do 180, roughly, backpacks for school coming up every year. That might meet the need. Probably doesn't. It feels insurmountable in our little community. Wait. We only have 4,000 people. How can we have that much need? Because we do. Because there is that much need. And then we just, let's extrapolate it out. Let's include Iowa City and the need that we can consider part, or just Iowa County. And then we go to Johnson County. And then we include the entire state of Iowa. And then the Midwest. It begins to become a big problem. Not a problem, but a chore, a task. But then we got to go globally too. Because God says neighbor. Neighbor includes us all. So here I am. How are we going to respond? How are we going to respond when we encounter God revealed to us? In whatever temple we're at. Whatever place of worship we're at. When we leave here with a worshipful mentality, and we go to work, we can make that a place of worship. Now, I'm not telling Katie over here to, because she's going to get in trouble. But there is a way to still make that a place of worship for each of us. Wherever we work, whatever we do, it's possible. Doesn't mean proselytizing, but it means having a different mindset. When we go from here, when we meet God here first, which is vital and important,